think the BOE ban is intelligent. The Braxis ban is just
Standard.
fear of North America, standard for Korea.
Yeah.
I mean, after watching Rule 20 play at BlizzCon with the unusual map picks we were seeing there, everyone's got to be careful about that.
I really want to know now, what does Tempo Storm look like without Garrosh and Malfurion? Because both games, they got it in the 1-2 yesterday. And like I was talking about before, Caterpillar could dictate so much as his presence of Garrosh with Into the Phrase to save Psalm or Glaurung the few times that they were maybe too far forward. So I want to know if Gen.G takes that, steals it here so that they have to play on something that is less so dictating of the team fights.
They could certainly steal one, but it seems they're still a little bit scared of Psalm banning out that Maiev. It has also been a consistent theme of Maiev being consistently banned throughout this tournament so far.
The most, I guess.
And there goes Tracer. Yeah, exactly. I would agree. I think you are almost certainly correct.
Rich's Tracer is terrifying and something that you really do need to keep in mind. You can't get the Garrosh and the Malfurion against Gen.G. In this meta, they will prioritize Malfurion because they're not going to pick the carry DPS hero in this case, just simply because this meta isn't sorted yet. And always in the past, during new metas, you know, MVP Black, then KSV, and now, of course, Gen.G, will prioritize the hero that allows you to build any safe composition in the early parts of a tournament.
It's like laying the foundations to have a stable building above.
Now, solo-wise, I'm absolutely watching the solo lane here, and which teams can gank the others. I feel like Kyocha is nigh on gankable in the solo lane role, but Glaurung in the past has had struggles with that. Gen.G is going to enable to help safeguard him, as well as try to maybe get some ganks on Kyocha, but I wonder if, since both teams were trying to play Sonya yesterday, who is going to end up getting this hero, or what adaptations we see there.
Gen.G, for example, put the priority onto it now due to the fact that Kyocha is nigh unstoppable. Like, his win rate is absurd. We talked about it yesterday.
His Sonya yesterday was disgusting.
Like, is he still unbeaten? I'm not entirely sure.
Oh yeah, well yeah, he was unbeaten all of part 2.
Yeah.
So yeah,
he didn't lose anything.
Up until now, potentially, he is still unbeaten, depending on if Tempo Storm can defeat them or if Gen.G even get it.
I want to talk about that for a little bit because what's really interesting about Kyocha is he has the lowest kill involvement in Korea out of any team in terms of team fights, and it's really low because he stays in the solo lane longer than any other solo laner. And that's why he looks so terrifying on these top laners, whether it's a Sonya or a more meta hero Dahaka in this tournament, because he's so difficult to kill. And that's why Gen.G gets that early lead. They normally get 10 first, even sometimes without kills.
Johanna, this early in the draft for Dragonshire, puts a heavy focus on that mid and bottom lane, no?
Yeah, there is a ton, as well as the Hanzo. We don't know what build he'll go into, but if you move into a scatter arrow build, this is something that Tempo Storm has drafted before, in order to make sure that you get that triple camp presence later on in the game, because you can take them so quickly. Also, you can just get them by yourself as giants, so you're not sacrificing a lot of resources. When you rotate out to those giants, you're still able to keep the lanes pushed with the Johanna. Nice pickup for Gen.G.
Scatter Arrow also gives so much domination over that bottom shrine. If you have a Johanna to keep Hanzo safe, you will just outpoke pretty much anyone else who is sent down there. So it's an interesting pick, though, considering Muradin has been a big priority for Tist, but this does allow them to go for potentially a bit more poke potential, which could allow them to dominate the lanes a bit more. I
think this Tastor ban's really smart. I see this Hanzo here, and I think based on what we've seen from Gen.G in this tournament so far, even though it's non-standard for them, you have to consider the possibility of that double support. Gen.G responds with a normal Uther ban so that Genji cannot be the carry hero with the Dragon Blades. But it's tough for Tempo Storm here now to figure out what exactly Gen.G is going to do next. They have a support, a DPS, and a tank, but they haven't revealed their strategy yet. Banning a solo laner for Tempo Storm would have been risky because then they could have just simply been counterpicked in the solo lane. Now they have first pick on that, but they might want to save it for fifth, because if you pick up a Dahaka here, you might end up with a losing matchup in the top lane.
I do still think they're going to go for Dahaka, though, just based on Tempo Storm's style, that they like to have mobility not only from the 4-man up to help that solo lane, but also down. Another idea might be Blaze for Glaurung. It's been a highly prioritized pick throughout part 2. However, I would caution against that because jet propulsions have not always been on point from him. I love his Dahaka. His stocks were highly impactful yesterday.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd go with that. Dahaka would be solid. I wouldn't mind them stealing away Sonya either. I still think that's completely acceptable. It's, once again, less in terms of rotations, certainly in terms of targeting Gen.G, what is proficient with them. You can deny that. And it does make their composition very aggressive, bringing out the Sonya and the Rhaegar.
A very strong pairing, and it really does help them control the camps, because you're up against a Hanzo. Now you have Sonya, can really help you clear those camps. You've got Rhaegar, so getting the night camps is going to be really easy. You rotate Rhaegar up there quickly. My only concern with grabbing Sonya this early is now you give Gen.G the opportunity to try to play the Dahaka. Kyocha's, arguably the best solo laner in the world. Glaurig's definitely up there, I would say. But in this matchup, you're going to have Kyocha up there in the top lane, and if you're losing fights, if you lose control for a second, when you have Kyocha on a global hero, that could be a big problem.
I mean, at least Genji's there to kind of reinforce that top lane, though, if that becomes a factor.
Sure. Another option is the Malthael that's very prominent in Asia.
Yeah, but Malthael has had a very rough tournament so far. Hasn't won a game out of the 3. Obviously, it's only one day in, but he is statistically not faring the best.
We do also have the potential for going a little bit further out there, perhaps out of the more standard stuff into perhaps Zeratul, just to try and dominate the rest. But we're sticking with the Blaze instead, and Phoenix coming in as well as that extra consistent damage. Extra poke from behind Johanna going to be very effective to try and prevent Garrosh getting too close, see if they can kite him back as much as possible.
And that leads more toward the old style, the part 2 style of drafting that Gen.G were doing a lot with the double solo lane. Granted, Phoenix has received significant nerfs, but as long as he's being safe and Johanna is around, this allows Hanzo to rotate around a lot more and get camps, and then Blaze, of course, is going to help with the survivability of the Phoenix as well as the Johanna.
I'm a little bit concerned about the Phoenix because I think Phoenix has had a big problem with Gen.G throughout this tournament thus far. Sure, it's only been one day, as you said, but in the matchup against Gen.G, it's very difficult to get into position to do damage. They've got Hanzo there as well, so I think the onus is really going to be on Tist here, and Kyocha to a lesser extent, to make sure they can peel when the dive comes through, but there's a heavy collapse potential here for Tempo Storm. They have an insanely strong front line. And thus far, I'm actually liking Tempo Storm's draft a lot more.
I'd like to see Tychus coming in here. There should be a fan hero left, and the front line from Gen.G, other than the blinds from Johanna, which could put him in trouble, are so tanky. Instead, we see Li Ming. So they're going to try and match, potentially, the poke that the Johanna front line really nets Hanzo to be able to do. Yeah,
I was expecting either the Tychus or maybe even a Greymane from the idea of having another hero to help them get camps. And you have Sonya, who
even
isn't
more
as...
burst as well, which is what the rest of the comp seem to work with.
Right, and some frontline pressure potentially if they want to go into Curse of Bullet. But here having the Li Ming goes along with the rest of the aggression that they drafted. We'll see if they can catch that weak Phoenix.
I mean, the double resets with a Sonya kind of barreling down on you is going to be a pretty scary prospect to deal with, surely.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think this comp has everything that you would want to have in a composition given the meta, and it doesn't really have any weak points. As long as it's executed correctly, I think this is one of the strongest comps we've seen thus far in this tournament. Right. So much mobility, so much combo potential.
Well, I'm going to go to predictions now, starting with you, Gilly.
While I love the aggression that Tempo Storm is bringing, I feel the map objective is way more suited, the wave clear, to Gen.G, and you can't just win one team fight versus Gen.G. You have to win one and then another one right away, or they're going to come right back at you. My vote is for Gen.G.
Okay.
For me, I think I look at this draft for Gen.G, and I look at it and say, I think they're hiding something. I don't think this is a draft that they think is a great draft. And I look at Tempo Storm, I think they're going all in. I think the draft is fantastic. I'm going to go with Tempo Storm with this game.
Okay.
I think for Tempo's draft, a lot of pressure is onto Cattle for that Garrosh, but I believe he can do it. I'm also going to go with Tempo Storm.
And...
This is awkward now. I'm just going to say it.
To be fair, I never bet against MVP Black. I never bet against KSV, so I'm not betting against Gen.G to start things off until I am proven incorrect. So I'm going with Gilly. I'm going with Gen.G as well.
Hard to vote against a 23-0 team.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. And let's check in with what chat voted for as well. Let's see who's awake. Is it broken? It's always 80-20, constantly. It never changes-ish. So there you go, 81% to Gen.G to start things off. And we do have our commentators, I believe, ready to go. But guys, this is the first time that in this tournament, Gen.G has gone up against Genji. Are you looking forward to commentating that?
I just look forward to Wolf flipping sides over the first 2 days. That's been the highlight for me so far.
I would have never guessed that.
One passport on this hand, the other in the other hand. He's like, which one do I use today?
I mean, the draft looks good. I can't say otherwise.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Well, have fun with it.
Well, we are getting things started off right today as Tempo Storm taking down one Korean team yesterday.
Yes.
They're going to try and do it again at the start of today to just, let's get some fireworks right out of the gate.
I mean, yesterday was a big showing for North America. We'd praised them. We'd said that a lot of teams have been hyping up this North American team. But now, the biggest challenge of them all, Gen.G up against Tempo Storm. Game number 1 here on Dragonshire with Gen.G on the left. Starting off with team captain Sake playing Malfurion. Rich on Hanzo. Johanna played by Tist. Kyocha on Blaze. And Reset rounds it out on Phoenix.
On the right side in red is going to be that of Tempo Storm, North America's probably greatest hope up until this point. It will be Caterpillar. Had a lot of success on the Garage, going to be rocking that again today. Som going to be on the Genji. Glaurung, we know he's had a prominent fixture on the Sonya towards the later part. June going to be on Rhaegar, and Li Ming trying to get those resets on or for Fan.
Now, we were actually talking about this during the draft, Jay, about Tempo Storm's composition. It is very aggressive. It's the double reset composition, but it lacks wave clear. And on a map like Dragonshire, the 4-man is really where you need to put your priority. And for that alone, I'm thinking Gen.G have a big advantage. We saw what happened in the game yesterday between Dignitas and Methods.
Top left here. Trying to take down a well. This is a really interesting strategy. It's something we've seen on a few other maps. And the reason we see this is simply due to the fact that, look, if you're trying to win a lane, you want to take away that strength that you have of going back and tapping the well. The problem is that's a Blaze. Blaze has a lot of self-sustain there, being able to heal up in that oil once it's lit up. So it is a strategical advantage.
Yes.
And every small bit against the team like Gen.G, you gotta give them credit where credit's due.
And I like it to further my point from before to complete it, really, if anything, was the fact that Method just were able to stall things out and get it to a late game stage where the aggression that Dignitas had drafted on Dragonshire was not enough to get them through. So Tempo Storm, they come in with the aggressive comp, they have a strategy behind it, looking to not only mean that they can find kills in that 4-man rotation, but that they can also make life a living hell for Kyocha up there in the top.
Really curious to see. You know, I always say this. I've been seeing Tempo Storm within North America for quite some time. And it happened yesterday on this map against Ballistics mid-game. You know, it took one objective, a double camp, and then all of a sudden things just really got out of hand. Tempo Storm, I think, is going to have a hard time because instead of the macro-oriented, to your point about the lack of wave clear, it's going to be more team fight-oriented. And relying on taking a team fight against arguably the best team fighting team in the world, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So if we do get to that point where Tempo Storm is going to be at and what they can accomplish off that, it's going to be very telling, I think, of how this game will potentially finish out.
And I believe a reset comp, in my opinion, is it has the potential to always find resets, as the pun comes across. We do see reset there in the mid lane. But yeah, no, to really further out that point, it's you can be behind, but that one kill can always snowball you into a situation where you are back into the mix of things as a lot of aggression comes onto Kato. He's being burnt on down, but the armor component will keep him up. Is Rich actually falling on down for the first blood? And Tempo Storm coming out once again, showing their prowess against Korea.
Som in that back line. Som is one of the most underrated players, I think. No matter how much fanfare he gets and where he's at, he gets a lot of credit for a lot of what this team does. But I almost feel like he's actually higher than where we would put him as June goes in, gets a little bit of damage in. And then just like that, that's going to be first objective going over to Tempo Storm off of that one kill. But almost had the trade there. But fortunately, Indomitable and the clutch heals and that totem coming out by June, able to keep them alive. And now, first objective for Tempo Storm.
We talk about all the tanks in this meta being extremely viable, but as you were saying before, Jay, Garrosh is just one step above them all, and for the sole fact of that armor, at the very least, the fact that he can take all those resources into him, but bait you into a situation where we end up winning. And now they're going to look to try and open up this map. They go through mid lane, taking that wall. Going to repeat that process in the bottom lane and look to try and achieve themselves a healthy XP lead to really get the ball rolling.
Yeah, a lot of this, again, we have some upcoming changes to the Fort Tower XP. We are not on that patch. We are on the old one where these Fort Towers are worth a substantial amount. And you look at that tower on that top part of that, that is 500 XP that can easily, that would have been level 7. That would have been potentially, you know, the experience that you're going to need for that race to level 10. So I think it's going to be important for them to go down there. Should be an easy poke for Li Ming as they force out some rotations, but definitely something they left on the board. But against a team like Gen.G, I mean, what's the point of risking that? Just pick it up later, find other opportunities in the meantime.
I think it's a very good point to bring up the fact that if they can reach level 10 first with a composition like this, which is looking to execute, well, it spells disaster for Gen.G. And Gen.G are no stranger to adversity. They've gone through multiple different styles of player themselves, but with the record that Gilly was mentioning, 23-0, there is a reason why this is the strongest team Heroes of the Storm has ever seen.
Right now, we saw the flank come in there. Cattle, he's thinking about walking in, but the rotation of Li Ming and Gen.G just not quick enough. You could say he's like, look, I've got Indomitable. I can make this happen. There's not a lot of CC on the side of Gen.G. We're talking about Roots and a small Condemn. They were unable to get there in time, get that rotation, so they'll have to have cleanup duty in that bot lane. But in the top lane, Skimmy, get quite a bit of value here for Glaurung.
Absolutely, Glaurung's going to utilize that mercenary camp to get some pressure with the armor as well. It's going to force out a rotation as Reset jumps on in. Jet propulsion to start off the skirmish. The whirlwind here from Glaurung on top of an oil spill to try and get the movement speed as well as some of that health back. But he's going to get chased on down. Can he spin to win? Yes, he can, it would seem. And Kyocha gets aggressive. And Sam rocks on up for the cleanup duty in aisle 1. And Tempo Storm, just like that, 2 kills in 5 minutes.
Oh, baby, are you kidding me? Tempo Storm, Glaurung. I'm like, dude, he overstayed. There's no way he's making, oh, wait a minute. Okay, maybe. And then he made it out. I mean, you kind of wonder, could you have switched auto attacks there if you were Phoenix to get that splash damage off the structure? But you could see not getting that kill. I thought, Glaurung, you might have overstayed for that tower. He got out, and then Gen.G, they're like, hey, maybe we chased a little bit too far. That is now twice that they've tried to confirm a kill, unable to do so. I mean, this is like razor-thin margins that these team fights or these picks are turning here, because it could have gone either way. The Tempo Storm finding the resolve so far.
What they do is Reset times that warp very well to ensure that he does not get hit by the Groundbreaker. The combination potential would have been pretty strong there from Tempo Storm, as they are just on the cusp of hitting level 10 themselves. And the Shrines are back in business. One apiece for both of these teams, as level 10 is now finally locked on in. And with a very small window, what can Tempo Storm look to achieve as they start off this aggression onto Tis?
To get the flip in, there's going to be the taunt, it's going to be the lockdown. You can see the Tranquility trying to keep him alive. Tis alive for now. June going in, trying to get that last bite. Cattle unable to get the follow-up, and now they got to figure out they get another toss back in. Li Ming trying to go into salvo in return, though, Skinny.
Oh, the salvo does so much work, hitting onto 1 to get that kill. As Garrosh does fall down in the end, and we talk about Garrosh being beefy, but Tis surviving through absolutely everything. Armor component, iron skin, and Tranquility to ensure that the regrowth gets value, and Gen.G fighting back.
Right now, they're going to take that advantage, push down in here to the bot lane. They don't have minions anymore, so they can't exactly stay around too long. There's not enough firepower this early in the game, but the damage is done, the well is done, they got the kill. And you can see Tempo Storm, all of these fights are just so close. We actually have a little bit of a skirmish going on all over the place between mid and top.
That it really is, as Glaurung has completely decimated that top lane now, keeping Kyocha in check. And I mean, there's a bit of a punishment potential that's really come from that fact that Sam was able to achieve that fountain at the very start. You mentioned that, yes. Blaze does have that innate self-sustain, but by taking that away as well, you're really punishing that top style of play. But bottom lane is where all the shenanigans do take place. You've got the ability, if you do really snowball on through, to pick up double giants as well as that night camp in the bottom part of the map and get an insane siege push. As Tis gets flipped into nowhere.
Gets flipped into nowhere, and we'd like to welcome in some Hearthstone players here as we're seeing some action. Welcome in as the Tranquility is out, salvo in return. Ancestral's gonna go out, keep Sam alive, seeing if he can go in, maybe get that top deck and wreck here.
Cannot indeed. He does get the Ancestral to make sure that he stays alive, and he manages to run away. Still Tempo Storm in the lead with a very minor margin, as now they turn their attention onto Glaurung, who's popped that Wrath of the Berserker. Going to fall on down, however, as both the Shrines are currently controlled by Gen.G.
The contention here over this mid lane is going to be very, very exciting, because right now, Tis, I think they're willing to concede this. Psalm, is he going to be there in time? He is, by the thinnest of margins, so he's going to hang out a little bit. That scatter arrow, though, Rich is quite profound on this. He's trying to find himself a kill, but Cattle, he's like, wait a minute, I got a little bit of firepower as well.
Sam does well, though, to buy enough time for the rotation from the rest of his team to come on through. Is now, once again, it's looking at that top lane as the 1v1 is going to take place. No Wrath of the Berserker for another 15 seconds, and that means that they cannot capitalize. Sam unable to do any work in the bottom lane, and Glaurung unable to bully out Kyocha. And now Gen.G with their first dragon off this game, Jay.
Yeah, and I think Tempo Storm, they made the right play. They conceded a little bit. They got the siege camp. It keeps the bottom lane pushed out a little bit instead of having those minions build up. And it just gives you a little bit of added defense here. As you can see, it takes a little bit longer for Gen.G to get through, gives you a little bit more time if you're Tempo Storm to get that rotation, get into a defensive position. The fort is going to be gone. It's just a matter of how much more can you defend? How willing will Gen.G be to push this? And right now, Tempo Storm, you can actually see Sonya on the flank coming in here.
Absolutely. Glaurung's got a fantastic position, but he's backed away at the very last second, realizing this could not be the best idea. Dragon Punt could spell disaster. You see it come across now onto Jun, and they've actually collapsed him, really forced Glaurung back. He's back in the top lane.
Yeah, you could see the flank, the potential there. Blaze is like, look, if you're ready, I'm ready. Kyoch I'm ready to pull the trigger. They weren't able to make up that distance, weren't able to get the dismount, unwilling to commit to that. But the damage done here, bottom fort fell. Gonna be our first fort down of the game. Experience, however, Skimmy, relatively close.
Still relatively close. It has been the story of this game for the best part of 10 minutes on Dragonshy here as Tempo Storm looking to really try and start a campaign where NA aren't the butt of all the jokes.
Look, I have faith, right? I had faith yesterday. Tempo Storm 2-0'd Ballistics. This, I feel, stylistically is a lot different matchup than we had yesterday with Tempo. And this is the mid game I was telling you about, where Tempo Storm loves to do this double camp. The Siege Giants and the Knights, they double up on this and they push. Not as well timed here for Gen.G, but they've taken that away. This is the moment that I like to see with Tempo Storm on how they approach this. Instead, Gen.G recognizing that, and they're gonna do the same that they've seen Tempo Storm do. Again, without them being timed well, this is the difference, right?
Yeah.
That's cleared up already, and now you don't get that same type of push. So Gen.G, I think, was just taking away some potential advantages, but it's definitely nowhere near as effective as we saw yesterday with Tempo Storm, who was actually able to run it down and win the game with it.
It's interesting, right, because you do see from time again teams delaying the cap, not instantly going for it, looking to either plant it behind the minion wave or to double stack those up so you actually just push this as one big wrecking crew. In this case, as you say, it was a denial, if anything, as Gen.G now turn their attention to the top lane. Bear in mind, Jun is still in the bottom lane, so Gen.G will get a lot of free push here as the night camp comes on through.
Yeah, you can see Cattle trying to get in position, seeing if he can get a toss over that wall. However, that wall is no longer there, so the threat isn't as much there. Tempo Storm starting to fall back. The Dragon Arrow is going to go in instantly. Bless Shield as well. Salvo is out, self-healed, or self-cleanse, I believe. Used by Cattle, but now we're coming into the back line, Skimmy.
We are, but Sam goes beast mode. Dragon Blade coming across, looking to try and do whatever he can. Twilight Dream is not going to be there because it's not even in the game, it's Tranquility. But Kyocha goes low, but it's not going to be low enough because Li Ming, Tempo Storm are the ones to fall down in this exchange here, and the punishment potential that Gen.G have is fantastic. Level 16, shrines on your doorstep, and a fault for your efforts.
Well, I mean, you get that type of advantage. That camp, of course, does give you that spell armor, so when you're in that circle, they knew that they had that, they had minions, so they came in with the aggressive flank underneath that fort, which is not very typical. Now, Sonya and Genji have both shown in that top lane. Gen.G's like, well, that's nice. We're just going to walk in and we're taking this. There's nothing you could do about it. So Gen.G starting to pick up the pace here, Skimmy. Things starting to get a little bit more tense here, I think, for Tempo.
And they've got a big control on the map, right? You can see Glaurung preoccupied by the bridge and top side, looking to clear that lane out, and it's going to force Sam to aggressively check that brush to see if he can capitalize on that shrine. Otherwise, it just goes from bad to worse over and over again.
Li Ming clearing up the siege camp in the bot lane. Once that's done, start to push that lane out a little bit. Then Tempo Storm, once they regain control of the lanes, there aren't a whole lot of camps that they can deal with. Right now, they actually might be forced to try and defend here. Glaurung is going to find Tist. We're going to see some action here.
Fantastic zone.
Maybe not. I mean, that was a little bit too easy.
The zoning potential there from both Tist as well as Sake on the route. Glaurung looking to try and do what he can, but without a leap, if anything, right? He's not really going to stand a chance there, as now they had to withstand another assault. The final fault that stands here for Tempo Storm.
This is one of those scary moments where, look, at worst, you should just lose a fort, maybe a keep wall, but if something happens like this, we're talking about lights out, game over. Gen.G, I was about to set that up, and all of a sudden Gen.G's like, nah, we like to do things a little bit quicker around here.
I didn't even see Li Ming die. I just see the pop up to my left in the kill feed. I'm thinking, wow, the blow up potential, the play is there. And they are looking to execute on a T right now, turning their attention to the bottom lane, setting that up with the keep for the wing condition. Ancestral! It's not going to be in time as Gen.G falls on down. Now 3 members of Tempo Storm looking to hang on.
I was about to say one more kill, this might be over, and right now they just committed way too much. We still have 20 seconds left on this. Cattle, he's got to go in. They have no damage dealers here to defend this. Li Ming still moments away. The taunt's going to buy some time. Tranquility's going to be there, but that's going to be a takedown. Hanzo is dead. Now Phoenix stuck in this Dragon Knight. They've got to get out of here. Tempo Storm might try and turn this around here, Skimmy.
That they do. The respawn timers are low enough to get themselves back into business.
He's out.
Sam up in 15. There's going to be a reset coming on through. And this should be an easy pick for them, but the fight continues in the base. But the fight also continues down the lane as Glaurung in a 1v3 situation, waiting for the Wolf to pounce on in. Fan gets the well tap, and Reset is buying a lot of time. But at this case, it's going to be staggered deaths. Jun gets turned upon, but it is a 1-for-1. Finally, Phoenix falls to the floor, and
that got wild. I think that was a little bit too greedy. Glaurung going in. They are staying aggressive. Both damage dealers are down on the side of Gen.G. No healer on the side of Tempo Storm, but numbers are going to check out there. Tempo Storm's going to walk in. They're going to have to neutralize this. They lost that bottom keep in the middle of this. And man, Tempo Storm, I think, starting to feel the heat a little bit here.
A massive structural disadvantage for Tempo Storm right now. All their faults have gone. They've lost a keep, and a fight is about to break out. Sam's Swift Strike actually gets interrupted there by the Dragon's Arrow. Beautiful timing as Fan is forced to use that wave of force to try and provide some peeling potential. At Sam is going to use the Dragon Blade even just to run away. Spinning to win. Cattle left on his own, saying, please, team, let's survive. No staggered deaths, please.
Can June get here? Can June get here? June, remember, they have not had a support for quite some time. He does make it. Cattle was walking over towards members like, give me somebody so I can press W. He is spamming that, trying to get that heal. The tosses, the Indomitable use saved his life. They were like, look, let me die. At worst, I die, you live. Get the hell out of here. But right there, that was just heads-up play. Cattle, running for his life, was able to save it for the moment, but my goodness.
This time, Gen.G aren't going to go for the instant cap, looking like they want to set this one up quite nicely. I don't know what the respawn timer is on their own giant camp, but they are on the way to level 20, and that's a significant lead. Not a single fault has even dropped for Gen.G. Structurally, they are so far ahead in this game.
If Gen.G, as I say, they're trying to catch somebody in rotation to the top. Now they have to fear that the Siege Giants might be picked up. They were trying to see if they could catch somebody in rotation up top. The problem with that is they're giving up the camp and catapults in the bot lane. You cannot afford to stay up in that top lane for a gank. You are on a very short clock. And I think right there, they're doing just that. They're starting to rotate over, see if they can get an advantage. But in the meantime, Skimmy 20 was already picked up.
Bot lane is pushing. This is a bit of a dance right now, but level 20 is there. And Reset is low, but he whoops out in just nick of time. Purification Saber is going to come across as Fan. Receives the Ancestral, but it's not the target that they need to keep alive because Garish falling on down. Caterpillar gone. It is a 4v5 with a significant disadvantage, but their cleanse is fantastic. But the positioning of Kyoto on the flank, blocking it off with the bunker as well to make sure that Gen.G can find one, find two, get triple kills across the board, and the setup is fantastic. The longer this fight goes on, it doesn't even matter. The mercenaries, the minions, they're pushing the core. It's down to 58.
It's done. There's no way you survive this. Dragon Knight's been picked up. Tempo Storm has accomplished what they were looking for. They get another takedown just to seal the deal. You could see this game early, Skimmy, was just all about, it was on a knife's edge in some of those early kills and ganks, and it just so happened in the first few worked out for Tempo Storm, and then we saw